Good evening. I'd like to call the October 14th of Gwynedd Township Business Meeting to order. This evening, I'd like to ask Martha Similaro if she'd lead us in the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up on our agenda, Deanna, will you do the roll call, please?
Catherine Carter, President.
Here.
Rebecca Moody, Vice President.
Here.
Denise Hall, Commissioner.
Here.
Danny, Commissioner.
Here.
Gregory Mull, Commissioner. Here. Sandra Zadell, Township Manager. Here. Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager. Here. Lauren Gallagher, Township Solicitor. Here. Nicholas Cross, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police. Brian Shapiro, Finance Director.
Thank you. Next, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Hall.
Yes, thank you, President Carter. Tonight, we have the privilege of recognizing one of our sergeants on the police force, Sergeant Bill Moriarty, and he is celebrating 25 years of service. Wow, I almost said 75. Wow. I don't think he wants to work here that long. Unfortunately, he wanted to join us this evening, but he is doing some police work for the county, and he was not able to make it. But I would like to say I would like to share with you some of the wonderful information about Sergeant William Moriarty. Sergeant William Moriarty is a graduate of Abington High School. He attended Montgomery County Community College and earned an associate's degree in criminal justice in 1996, graduating cum laude. Sergeant Moriarty then attended the Montgomery County Police Academy, graduating in June of 1998. In October of 1999, Sergeant Moriarty joined the Upper Gwynedd Township Police Department as a patrol officer. In addition to his regular duties, Moriarty's assignments include being a response to resistance instructor, a member of the Montgomery County Major Incident Team, Bike Response Unit, and coordinator of the Upper Gwynedd Police Bike and Motor Units. He has also served many years as a patrol squad officer in charge. Sergeant Moriarty has attended several investigative and instructor certification training courses. He has also completed several leadership classes, including, but not limited to, the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association Supervisory Leadership and Command Institutes for Law Enforcement Executives. He was promoted to the rank of sergeant in January of 2023 and is currently assigned to the Patrol Division. Sergeant Moriarty is the recipient of numerous commendatory letters and official commendations and has earned 2 meritorious service medals and the Medal of Valor. He was nominated by his peers to be the 2019 Officer of the Year. We thank Sergeant William Moriarty for his leadership in the department and his dedication to serving our community. We look forward to working with him for many more years, hopefully not 75. P.S. Sergeant Moriarty is known for his attention to detail, especially in police reports. So hopefully this was all grammatically correct, because we all know he has a red pen ready if it was not. If we could all please give him a big round of applause. Thank you, President Carter.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Mull.
Thank you, President Carter. I have the privilege of recognizing Eric Razor on his 15-year milestone with Upper Gwynedd Township. As a laborer/truck driver with the Public Works Department, Eric has played a vital role in maintaining and improving our community's infrastructure. He excels at the department's main brine operator, maintaining road safety and winter maintenance with a very efficient system, which he has streamlined. He is eager to cross-train, learning the very valuable skill of running the backhoe, which contributes to various projects throughout the year. Eric also has a significant responsibility of rebuilding catch basins, which he does so effortlessly. Eric is no stranger to the Parks and Rec Department, as he has worked with them briefly during his time at Upper Gwynedd. As a resident as well, he is rooted in the community and is often seen at Norgwin baseball, helping out at the fields, as well as at the Norgwin pool and the swim team. Eric resides in the township with Alyssa and their 2 children. Emma, who is currently attending school in Rhode Island, where she is part of the swimming and diving team, and Brody, who's a student at North Penn High School and active in baseball. Eric, thank you for being such an asset to Upper Gwynedd Township, the Public Works Department, and the community at large. Congratulations, Eric.
Oh. Thanks, Denise. Before we go on, while we're recognizing people, this past weekend, the commissioners spent some time in Scranton, Pennsylvania at a leadership training. And I'd like to thank all the commissioners for taking the time out to represent Upper Gwynedd Township. But especially I'd like to congratulate Commissioner McNaney, who won an award for leadership. And I'd like to give her a hand this weekend for the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Commissioners.
Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Next up on our agenda, we'd like to extend, and come on up, for Noah Marler, our Montgomery County Prothonotary, who will present our Hope Card information. Thank you, Noah.
President Carter, you nailed the name. You got it. Prothonotary. I'll bet you did. My name is Noah Marlier, and I am your Montgomery County Prothonotary. So I'm here tonight to talk about some of the specific initiatives we've had in our Protection from Abuse department. But I will say, if we can go to the next slide, just a little bit about the office, just in case you don't know what a Prothonotary does or what our office does. So it's basically the civil arm of the courts. So before you get into the courthouse, before you see a judge, you have to file legal papers with the courts. And to do that, you have to file legal papers in the Prothonotary's office. So not your criminal filings, that's the clerk of courts for the county, but as the elected Prothonotary, I run the office where the civil filings come through. So we're talking about divorces, we're talking about if you've been sued or you're suing somebody, if you're doing a name change, any sort of civil legal filings, you see some of them up there, would have to come through our office. So it's a really important office because a lot of these folks are going through some tough times, and going into the court system is intimidating and daunting, and we're the first step into the courthouse. And so my 27 employees, I'm very, very proud of the work that they do for the Prothonotary's office and for the residents of Montgomery County. But specifically, we have one specific unit called the Protection from Abuse Department, PFAs. Now, protection from abuse is basically a restraining order. It's called protection from abuse here in Pennsylvania. It is in other states as well. They're called restraining orders. Most people think of them as restraining orders because that's frankly what they're called in California. Movies are made in California, so when you watch a movie and you hear about this, you hear a restraining order. But they are called protection from abuse in many states, as they are here. We see 30 to 50 people come through the Prothonotary's office a week looking for PFAs, 30 to 50. And I will say that these PFAs, we see same-sex partners, we see men being abused by women, but the vast majority of people we see are women that are being abused in a relationship, oftentimes with their children in tow into the courthouse, sometimes with fresh bruises on their face or on their arms. And so we take very, very seriously what we do in my office because we are helping people that are in a very, very vulnerable state. You can go to the next slide, please. So I just want to talk about two initiatives today that I'm so proud of that are very unique and have just been launched this year that I want you to know about. I want your police departments to know about. I will say with the Hope Card program, which I'll go into in a moment, we did work with the district attorney from Montgomery County, Kevin Steele, and we did present to the police chiefs. But we want to make sure that local officials know about this so you can get the word out to your residents. So a PFA, when it's filed, it again is very daunting, very scary situation. We have to go into court and go before a judge. So we're trying to make it a little bit easier. So the Hope Card program, when you get a PFA, you get a temporary PFA, and that's when you go in front of a judge the day that you petition for the PFA. then you have to come back within 10 days to have a full-blown hearing, and the defendant can obviously testify, and the judge has to weigh the evidence and determine if a final PFA should be issued. And if that final PFA is ordered, my office by law has to send those PFAs out, has to send out the order. And the order looks like this, and it can be many pages long. And I can tell you from my experience as a district attorney here in Montgomery County, a lot of folks that get these, the survivors of domestic violence, they don't keep the PFA final order on them at all times. It's cumbersome, it's klutzy, so you might keep it at home on your table, might keep it in your lockbox, maybe you keep it in your glove compartment. So what we're doing, and this is a first of its kind in Pennsylvania, not only are we sending out the PFA final order, but we're sending out a hope card. It's a laminated card, and I'll pass it around. Board. The laminated card has some of the pertinent information from the final PFA order on the front. So the PFAD number, so your officers know exactly the number that is assigned to that protection from abuse order. It can look up all the information with ease. It's also got the name of the plaintiff, the name of the defendant. And on the back, there are resources. Victim Services Center of Montgomery County, the Women's Center of Montgomery County, Laurel House. Resources for those folks, for that survivor, so she feels just a little more comfort, a little more ease. And the PFA order is much more accessible. A resident of Upper Gwynedd is walking around and her abuser is following her when he should not be. She can go right up to an Upper Gwynedd police officer and say, "Officer, I have a PFA. Here's my hope card." Instead of trying to carry around the PFA final order with her, she can carry around the hope card in her purse or in someone's wallet, and it's easily accessible. So I think this helps law enforcement, and I think it gives the survivor a little more comfort. It doesn't replace the final order, but that gets sent out as well still, obviously, but I think it brings a little more security. If you can just go to the next slide, please. Oh, and just to be clear, I should note this hope card is, again, a first of its kind in Pennsylvania. It has to be done in Washington State now by law as of this year. It's being done in Montana, a Native American reservation out in the West, but it's never been done anywhere in Pennsylvania. So I'm very, very proud of bringing this initiative here to Montgomery County. The second initiative I wanted to talk to you about is our online protection from abuse packet. So prior to February of this year, if someone was being abused in a relationship and they wanted to get help from the courts, they had to travel to Norristown to go through the entire process. Now, you still have to go to Norristown. And that's just the way it is because you have to go before a judge. However, instead of coming into Norristown and going through the following process, court administration, to fill out a 15-page packet to my office, you can enter that information into the state system, to the court for a hearing, back to my office to enter in the information from that order, down to sheriffs to have that order served. Instead of doing all of that, we've cut out that whole first step. So starting in February, that packet that had to be filled out in court administration can be filled out anywhere where there's an internet connection. So anywhere where someone has a computer, they can fill that application out. If they get done part of it, it gets uploaded court administration. If they get done all of it, great. But we're seeing that this is cutting down the amount of time that a survivor has to be in the courthouse by 30 minutes, an hour and a half. And this is important because someone who's suffering from domestic violence, who's a survivor of domestic violence, needs less hurdles, not more. And so we're not going to make the process easy. That's impossible. But if we can make it a little bit easier, that's what we're trying to do. We were the second county in Pennsylvania to do this. Allegheny was the first, and we were the second. I'm very proud of this initiative as well. I know all 5 of you personally. I know you well. And so I can say this with full confidence, that you wake up thinking the same thing I am as a public servant. How can you help people that need help the most? And that's what I'm trying to do as prothonotary. These are just 2 of the initiatives from my office. I am so honored to be here tonight and to speak to you, and I'll take any questions you might have.
You mean last February or February 25?
The initiatives, these 2 initiatives, both got launched. Coincidentally, by the way, we didn't plan on launching both of them at the same time, but it happened just organically to launch around February of this year. So they're in effect now.
Thonotary Marlier, does HOPE stand for anything? Is it an acronym, or is it just a name that's inspiring that the county has come up with for the project? I didn't know if there was a name associated.
I should give some credit. There's not, but I'll give credit to the person who came up with the name. It was actually, this is what they're called in the jurisdictions that do it out west, hope cards. I think because they bring a little bit more hope to that survivor, not standing for anything necessarily. But this idea did come from a meeting I had with one of your counterparts in Plymouth Township, Karen Bramblett, councilwoman. She was actually prothonotary for the Superior Court of Pennsylvania, so she knows what a prothonotary is, which is great. And she and I were having coffee one morning, and we were talking about over coffee at a Panera, talking about initiatives and things that the prothonotary's office could do. And she had this idea, and we ran with it. So I'm very thankful to her.
Is it on the Montgomery County's website?
It is, President Carter. We have a portion of the county website is dedicated to the prothonotary. We have our own page, prothonotary page. We have links on that page on the left-hand side next to passports and civil viewer and other different things that we offer. There is protection from abuse. And under that PFA tab, you would be able to find the online packet.
Thank you. Someone in the audience had a question.
It did. Yeah, that's a great question. We discussed doing this retroactively, and it's just impossible. Where do you draw the line? So we just started it. Once we started in February, whenever a final PFA gets issued, and we cut that order, we've worked with the county to laminate these cards and cut these cards ourselves. It's very little expense to the county taxpayer. They go out automatically. So to answer your question, sir, we started in February. We'll move forward.
Thank you for that, for doing this. This is really going to, as I said earlier, it's going to be a quicker process so that people can feel safe again. So this is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any more questions from the public? Thank you, Noah.
Thank you, President Carter. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Next on our agenda, number 7, we'd like to turn it over to Megan.
Thank you, President Carter. This evening, we have Peter Simone from Simone Collins, who will be giving the presentation for the Comprehensive Recreation Parks and Open Space Draft Plan.
Great. Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'll be brief. I'm going to try to give you a high-level overview of the comp plan. It's a draft plan right now. It's on the township website for review. So I know we've had many conversations about it, and members of the public, if you want to review it, you can do that. Do you advance it or do I? Okay, thanks. So we're 9.5 months into an 11-month process. We've had 7 committee meetings. This is really tonight the 4th public meeting. We're going to have one more public meeting. We had a great response to our opinion survey, over 500 responses. We had 9 key person/agency interviews. And as I mentioned, the draft is on the website now. So if anybody wants to go look at it, we encourage you to do that and give us your written comments. And our final public meeting is planned for December 4th next. We worked with a very dedicated and involved committee. You can see their names here. I think most of them came to every committee meeting, which is pretty remarkable. We appreciate that. And they really acted as our sounding boards in terms of letting us know about conditions, suggesting things, reacting to ideas that our team had. We, of course, worked with township manager and the director of parks. And again, we've had conversations with all of you board members, which has been very helpful too. And then in addition to Simone Collins, we work with Derek DeRica, who's sort of Sarah Priebus's counterpart in Upper Dublin, to get sort of a peer review on the great work that Sarah's been doing. Next. So our draft recommendations, I'm just going to take you through, again, a very high-level review. They're broken down into several categories. One is planning studies. A comp rec plan takes a big picture view, and there are some more detailed studies that we think will be good to do in the next few years. One is for the Norgwin pool. The pool, I'm sure many folks in the audience are members or have been members, is like a cornerstone of the community. It's sold out every year. The pool is old, and it's only going to be able to be repaired for another 10 or so years. So it's time now to start planning for its replacement. And the first step in that is to do a feasibility study / master plan on what that new pool will be. This is a study that can be funded partially by DCNR, so it's something that we are suggesting you do sooner than later. Similarly, the playground outside in the park is a landmark playground. People know it from all around, and that's starting to deteriorate too. I know Sarah Priebus has been working with the designer, who's also the builder of that, and working with them to come up with a detailed plan to replace that. Certainly, when that was built, there was a lot of community participation, which is why people are so fond of that playground, because they helped build it. And so we think that's a great model. Another thing that's come up is Sarah and the township do a great job of recreational programming. When we work in adjacent communities, Upper Gwynedd is always pointed to as they have great programming. Why can't we have programming like that? But one of the obstacles Sarah has is she needs indoor recreational space. And so one of the suggestions is to do, again, another feasibility study for what we're calling a modest recreation building that could be built perhaps here in the park or maybe another location, so that the township has indoor space to program the many things that you do all year round. We think this is critical. You're at a point in your evolution as a township, we think it's appropriate. And again, I think the key there is to establish a program so it's reasonable. You did a study like this several years ago, probably went a little bit too far down the road in terms of what was suggested. Another thing is to establish a Veterans Memorial Playground or Park, to honor the veterans in this community. Each satellite park, we've made some modest suggestions for improvements, and also here at Parkside Place to do calling a little bit more of a detailed plan to ferret out some of the things that we've suggested here. Next. So in terms of the satellite parks, you see them listed here. I won't read all the improvements, and I'd encourage folks to look at the draft plan. But again, they're relatively modest improvements to increase use, to make these parks more sustainable. In some places, replacing lawn with meadows so you're not cutting grass, increase water absorption into the soil, those types of things, some pathways, pretty basic and modest improvements to make those parks nicer. And here at Parkside Place, a number of things that you can read there, a new bathroom up at the far end of the park near the road so that people don't have to come all the way down here and not have to use the porta potties. A third basketball court can pretty much fit in between your two existing ones. And I know Sarah's already talking to contractors about getting pricing for that, because her basketball program is sold out and the kids are there until 11 o'clock. So if you have another court, that program could probably finish a little sooner on summer evenings. One or two new pavilions, some nature trails here could work very well. Some paving of the lot that's down below the pool might be a good addition. I know you've already talked about that. Maybe additional pickleball facilities via the conversion of 1 or 2 tennis courts. And again, this is interchangeable. 20 years ago, tennis was crazy hot. Now it's pickleball. So this is an easy fix without creating more impervious and pretty low cost. And also getting some Wi-Fi capabilities at your pavilions here in the park. Next. In terms of open space preservation, you have a number of parcels that you own that are sort of, I'll call them leftover. They're not actively maintained. They're nice pieces of open space. We looked at almost all of them to see if they were appropriate for trails, and we determined that they weren't. But they do provide environmental service, meaning they provide wildlife habitat, they absorb stormwater, they're aesthetically pleasing. So to maintain that inventory and to develop a program of natural lands management that more actively manages them. No natural land can be unmanaged anymore. There are too many invasives in the environment. So it's not a small task, but it's one that I think over time will pay dividends for the township in many ways. The Norgwin baseball and softball field's great facility. I don't know what you'd do without it, but and it's really used on a handshake deal right now between PICO and the school district. And we don't know of any intentions for that to change, but we're saying formalize that, put that in a conservation easement, open space easement, so that, administrations change, folks change, and it's a great facility. We're just saying go through the steps to permanently preserve that as a recreational space, because it's not today. Stormwater BMP, some of those recommendations in the smaller parks are to just do things that will get water into the ground and cleanse the water. These are things that can be funded through park funding that can help meet your MS4 plan, which can get very expensive, as you know. And also consider an official map as you look at open space parcels that you might identify for future acquisition. Next. In terms of connectivity, Township's fortunate to have two regional trails, the Liberty Bell Trolley Trail and the Power Line Trail. You've recently done studies on those. Those are certainly the priorities. But the work that we did was to come up with mostly on-road sharrows and in some cases some bike lanes, so that folks in the community don't have to put the bike in the car and drive to the regional trails. That there are safe routes that are demarcated for vehicles, but also for bicycle traffic. And these are mainly roads that are low volume, low speed. If you go to the next map, we've provided in the plan in the open space plan, a trails connectivity plan that shows various local connections. In some cases, they act as more immediate routes maybe than some of these regional routes that are going to cost more money and take more time. We planned for North Wales. We had a great meeting with the manager at North Wales. She was very receptive to the plan we came up with. We talked to a lot of people, cyclists, et cetera, to come up with a good plan there. So taken as a whole, we think this will complement the regional trails that go through the township to get your residents to those in a safe manner. So hopefully you can look at that, give us comments. Again, everything's subject to change, though. It's still a draft plan. Next. In terms of recreational program, we already mentioned getting a consistent indoor space. We've had good conversations with Sarah about the possibility of doing some small expansion to programming at these satellite parks, fostering better relationships with the school district and adjacent municipalities, perhaps share services, et cetera, in terms of recreation. And I think that if you don't know it, in my opinion, you're very lucky to have Sarah. She's very forward thinking. She's looking at trends all the time. She's implementing new things. And just to continue to do that, Derek DeRico, her peer, was very impressed by what she's doing, and for good reason. Next. In terms of administration, increasing the pavilion rentals here. If you add new pavilions, maybe make it an AM/PM rental, because very popular. Volunteers, our sense through this process is the people in the community live here because they care about the community, and to formally establish a volunteer program through the Parks and Recreation Department so that people can get engaged in whether it's invasives removal or planting new trees or whatever the task is. Set that up formally. You might only have a couple events a year, but it helps. Just like the playground vested people for the last 20 years because they participated in it. Having these volunteer programs gets people more involved and makes them even more better advocates for your parks and recreation system, which we think is great. And continue to educate, provide educational opportunities for staff. I think the environmental stewardship position is a case in point. It's not as simple as just pulling out bad plants. There's a whole science to it. So, it can get pretty complex. So those educational opportunities are important with that too. And in terms of maintenance, you honored one of your folks here tonight who's been with you for 15 years. As you know, you've got people who have been here longer than that, and they're getting ready to retire. And a lot of the great stuff they do is in their head. So we want to encourage them and you to write it down using your existing software so that not only the what to do is known, it's how to do it, because you're going to lose some of that institutional knowledge when those folks move on unless you do that. To make sure you value and reallocate times to maintenance. Parks are very well maintained. It's your greatest cost with Parks and Recreation, but it's easy to for anyone to dismiss it like, oh, that's not important. It's very important for all kinds of reasons, from safety to the environment. Also, I saw on your agenda a motion to do the pole barn for the recreation department. Perfect. It's exactly what that bullet is talking about. And I already mentioned natural resource management. So in terms of implementation, there are a lot more recommendations. I tried to hit the high points. What are the priorities? And we've suggested some of those. And again, based upon everybody's review of the draft plan, we can certainly change those. We think the priorities are to do the pool feasibility study, because, you know, whatever you build in the future, probably in today's dollars, it's a $10 million project. There's no other way to think about it. And so you have to start planning for that now. The other reason you do a plan is because once you have a plan, things happen. One of our clients is Whitman Township. They're building a community center now. They're building it because somebody knew about the plan and is actually donating $10 million. You just don't know until you have a plan. So I'm not saying it'll happen here, maybe it will, but that's why that's so important. And also part of that study would be to look at the governance of that. Much harder for volunteers to run a complex facility like that. So we think that's important. I also mentioned the playground master plan, which is a smaller task, easier task by several times. Next. The third basketball court, I mentioned Sarah's already talking to contractors, and I'm sure she'll be coming to the board soon with some costs and maybe some proposals to add that court in the near future. Formalization of the maintenance task, which I mentioned is a high priority, and also increasing pavilion rentals, which is, again, a pretty low-hanging fruit that you could take advantage of. So our next steps are to look for comments that folks will make on the draft plan. We're going to be meeting with the committee on November 7th to review those comments, coming back for a public meeting on December 4th to present the final plan, to talk about what changes. And that's where we are. So thanks for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or try to.
Thank you. Board members have any questions?
There's a lot in here. There's a lot that could be done, recommendations. But I will, and I haven't shared this yet with the board, but since you brought this up, last week, myself and two members from Norgwen Baseball met with the school district about preserving those fields, or what could be done with those fields. It's a very, very early baby steps project, and just trying to figure out who to meet with, what we have to do. But I saw that in the plan, and when they asked me to join their team to, get the feelers out there, so that would be, maybe a possibility, doing, preserving that land for, because as you said, it's a beautiful complex over there. So that would be, we're looking into it.
Any public questions for Simone? Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda, Lauren, were there any executive sessions? There were. The board met an executive session earlier this evening to discuss matters of potential litigation. Thank you. Next up is public comment. Please state your name, and if you're a resident or non-resident, when you come up to the mic, please make sure the mic is on. There's a green light. Please make sure it's on. Thank you for respecting the 5-minute rule and practicing decorum. Our goal is to always give you the most complete and correct answers to your questions from our staff, who are experts in their areas of expertise. We've had some residents who were concerned that if we answer questions offline, then the residents who wanted to hear the answer publicly would be left out. So we will continue to share any answers to questions that were posed publicly, but were answered privately at the following public meeting. First up this evening for public comment is Carl Smith.
Carl Smith, and yes, I am a resident, have been for some time. At the risk of stating the obvious, we just listened to these consultants, they cost money. And the cost is, upfront cost is obvious, like I just said, where we have to pay them to gather the information, disseminate it, and present it like we heard tonight. The not so obvious cost is implementing the suggestions. And along with that, typically what I've noticed in the past is that they are along for the ride, a much longer ride than a lot of us would think in the beginning. So the recommendations, it costs money to put in place, the professional help to hold our hand and your hand, the community's hand, that's added cost. So something to keep in mind. This wasn't what I specifically came up to talk about. I did read through as much of the survey as I could digest. I'm here tonight to challenge two of the premises that went into coming up with the recommendations and conclusions. The first is that it seems that the municipalities that we were being compared to, Upper Gwynedd, to other municipalities were selected specifically. And I don't know what criteria went into that, but the results were that it seems we don't measure up in terms of having enough open space. The second premise, which is more important, is the fact that in the study, even though it mentions all these tracts of land that we have access to through the public-private partnership, it's not considered formally in the comparison. So Upper Gwynedd is given credit for land it owns specifically, and it was mentioned tonight. But tracts of land like Pico, Wissahickon Valley Watershed, Natural Lands Trust, Delaware Valley College, Freed, Muscarella, North Penn School District, Corpus Christi School District, all privately owned property that is open space that would, if calculated, would more than make up for the so-called deficiency that the results came out with for 56.44 acres. The Natural Lands Trust has 240 acres just by itself. So that would, take care of the 56-acre disparity very easily by 4 times. I feel that this privately owned properties should be quantified and given credit because it represents open space A, B, public access. There's trails on it. It also is very important to underscore the fact that the land is available for public use at a reduced cost because of the long-term leases and the fact it's been preserved. I don't think it's a bad idea to follow his advice about trying to lock that in for longer, but a pretty good job has already been done. So the obvious question to me when I've been reading through this is, why wasn't this part of the formal comparison? Was it just simply incompetence, or are we trying to get to a specific result? I'm sorry to be a cynic, but I've learned that that's probably a good idea around here.
Thank you.
Carl, I just want to make sure I understand. So you're asking why, I wish Peter had stayed, you're asking why those specific municipalities we were compared to and
There
not
were
others?
specific municipalities only, and I don't know what criteria went into that. I have no way to answer that question.
Okay, so we need to find out what the criteria was.
I can answer that question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Voice.
Sorry. My voice from above. Sorry,
Right.
I'm out sick today, everyone. The municipalities were chosen by factors that make them similar to us, such as their population, and, size of budget, things like that, that are typical municipal comparison factors.
Well, you can understand my curiosity when they came up with a deficiency of 56 acres when we've got all sorts of acreage available. The Wissahickon Valley Watershed hasn't even been quantified because it's such a vast tract of land. So I don't understand.
Carl, I think if you look at the portion of the plan where they discuss active recreation, I know we have lots of passive recreation opportunities in our township. which is great for our residents. But I think if you look at the comparisons regarding ball fields, pavilions, playgrounds, those types of comparisons, you can see that the township is short and needs to be rich to make those types of amenities in parks.
How are you short when you got ball fields that are underutilized, and we've got all this access to privately owned property, and all this? This seems to me that you are focused on acquiring property that's owned directly by the township at a very high cost. It's going to cost the citizens of the township resources. They're either going to be diverted or extracted from the citizens. And if you do this, you're talking about a pool this guy's talking about. This is millions of dollars that right now is not even on the in the public budget. It's handled privately. We're going down a road that's going to turn us right into a big city organization like Abington and Philadelphia and the rest. But that seems to be where this board likes to go.
Thank you. Next up, Linda Smith.
Hi, good evening. Linda Smith, McIntosh Way resident. I just have some comments about the survey itself. I mean, it included respondents who were not township residents. So what I don't understand is why do people that don't live in our township, that aren't paying our taxes, that have no role in impacting our land use, why would they even be included in a survey? There was 501 total respondents, and 22.5% of them were from outside the township. So the respondents, the gentleman commented that there was a great response, but for me, 501 residents out of 16,000 is not a good. I don't feel that was a good response. Also, the way the residents were able to fill out the survey, I know you made it available through links and on the website and through your emails and whatever. But right now, especially with the election coming, the mail-in ballots are very popular and they're really being used. Why couldn't we have sent out a survey via mail? I know it's more expensive to do it that way, but there are residents, older residents that do not, aren't computer friendly and that would go maybe as far as filling out the survey. You would have a much better response. And then that would, the increased participation would have gone a long way and it would eliminate these non-resident responses. So 389 residents, Upper Gwynedd residents responses in a community of over 16,000 residents is hardly a compelling mandate to do anything in this regard. Then on page 190 of the report reveals a very interesting statistic. It reveals that 69% of the non-resident responses indicated that their primary reason to visit Upper Gwynedd is to enjoy the parks and recreational facilities. So this would be counterintuitive with a plan that concludes that Upper Gwynedd Township has comparative deficiencies. In reality, Upper Gwynedd Township does not have deficiencies in either open space or facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Fred Hankin.
Fred Hankin, I am a resident of Upper Gwynedd. My first question, I'm not sure, and I'm sorry the consultant isn't here, is why are we even comparing ourselves to other townships? Like, why does that even matter? Whitpain's one of, I looked at Whitpain's, almost the same square footage, same population. Not sure about that. I feel that the study should have taken a closer look at the relationship between Upper Gwynedd Township, PICO, North Penn School District, and the North Glen Baseball Association. I did just hear, as you just heard, that sounds like we're on the right track, and I'm just glad to hear that. I heard that through the rumor mill, and it seems like it's true if you're talking about it. I appreciate that. So doing so may actually reveal a far more secure relationship between North Glen baseball facilities and underlying landowners. The facilities are managed by North Glen Baseball, are secured through active leases and not easements, as suggested in the study. Well, those leases are limited to specific terms. There is no reason to believe North Penn School District and or PICO would not be able to extend those leases. The study, I also like to point out that we just built a brand new complex up there 5 years ago with the, the refreshment stands and all that. I would think that there would be an active way of continuing these relationships because we wouldn't have spent all that money had that not been a consideration.
Fred, you know I sit on the board.
You and I have met.
Yep. And there's a lot going on. I was just up there last night. They inducted Joe Rosenblatt into the Hall of Fame last night. So there were some, George Wicks was up there and a bunch of ones that go way back. And there was a lot of conversation about, what's the future of that. So they have a group now that's really thinking. Ed Hill is the new president of the board. So there's a group there that's.
I spent a lot of time up there, like sweat and tears.
We all did. We all have.
I'm looking
And
like
we're looking into now. I will say that
we get extra time because
yes, you do. That they did not get that they did not know that this was the draft plan when their planning started.
Okay.
So when they brought me in, that's where I mentioned it. But Fred, you can rest assured that everything's being looked at, and those fields.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And the Squires field too. So let's not forget that one.
So one thing, and I read the study through from every page as well. The study concluded that we needed additional baseball fields are needed, and I'm questioning whether New England Baseball is even consulted on the needs for additional fields. I don't believe they were. I think it's because of this multi-municipal comparison approach that the township and the consultant went through. By my count, now it's been a few years, but by my count, there are 8 additional baseball, softball fields at New England, including Hostelli Field 1, 2, 3, 4, T-Ball Stadium 6, and Field 7. There's also a Field 5 that's been fallow for a number of years. So I guess I'm not understanding why we're so desperately short on baseball fields, which, as you know, they're very active.
The Parks and Rec department for the little children, and I don't remember the age group, but I was over there. They do use the field behind Pizza Time, behind that church.
Yes.
So that field is being utilized. It's not in the best
I know they
shape.
play soccer there too.
Yeah. So that's why for the township to use to have more baseball fields, maybe that's what this.
I guess where I got confused was it's almost like if township doesn't own it, it doesn't count.
Fred, I can speak to the baseball and softball because I'm up there just about every night with my kids or coaching my team.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, fields 6 and 7 are generally unplayable. My daughter practices softball on there, and they're the rockiest, weediest fields that we travel to, and it's frankly embarrassing. They do need some work. I would say for the community, the Norgwin baseball and softball community, those fields are busy every night with either rec or there's also our travel programs that occupy the fields. What we're really lacking, and I can say this as a parent, is fields where kids that aren't belonging to a travel team, kids that don't belong to a rec team with a scheduled practice or game can go and have fun playing baseball or softball. Because when you go up to the fields, oftentimes they're booked with practices or scheduled games. So we would really benefit from the kids that just want to have a pickup game or practice their skills with their dad or their mom without having to fight for availability with the field.
Okay, thank you.
A sandlot type of a.
I mean, I remember.
I know.
I can remember going back there and it was stuffed, but I know there's other activities that take away from that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the study didn't include the 2 football fields that the Squires use on North Penn School District property. I think that's important because if you compare to other townships, who's got more football fields for recreation than we do? And that wasn't in the study. I just wanted to point that out. And regarding the Parkside Playground, as we all know, this is a one of a kind community built facility. I was part of that. 1995 was when they built that, and I'm hopeful that the township has been able to continue maintenance on that facility. I know that it's aging over time and things need to be fixed. It's not ADA compliant, as I understand it as well. I know it wasn't when we built it. And this playground, as you know, has been mentioned multiple times in the Philadelphia Inquirer for one of the top 10 things to do with your children in the Philadelphia area. So my question really is, why did the township use Robert Leathers to evaluate the condition? I understand that they had to do, they planned and built this facility, but since they are the original designer, why wouldn't the township maybe have another consultant for the construction and looking at that? Because who more to gain from rebuilding a township parkside playground than the consultant that you're bringing in to do it? Like, you don't have a second opinion from my understanding. I think some.
Can I make a comment on that for you?
Yeah, sure. I'm hearing this.
As you mentioned, the playground is sort of one of a kind. It's not that one of a kind though, because Doylestown has a similar one by Doylestown Township, also built by Leathers.
Yes.
Similar process to restore it. So the reason we went with Leathers is they are the expert on this specific type of castle. When we engage in next steps, of course, will be doing more than just talking with Leathers. But this is a draft plan. It's the first step in just identifying that the castle does need some sort of change and repair to come up to compliance with ADA. And it is nearing 30 years old. We are, of course, maintaining it all the time. It's very safe, but it's not at today's standards for playground.
Understood. I guess my suggestion is we need other consultants to bid on this too, because the fact that they're making the decisions and they build it just seems a
They're
little.
not making any decisions. They're consulting. They're going to be consulting with us on next steps.
And my last comment, I wish the consultant was here because he did a good job. Duplicating the effort from 1995, as you know, it was a massive volunteer effort. I think there were 8,000 volunteers. I don't know if any of you were part of that or not, but it was a massive effort. So it's not just about money, it's organizing the volunteers. And I heard from this presentation that that's something that.
And Fred, you were a big part of that, weren't you?
I'm sorry?
You were a big part of that organizing.
Some of my neighbors.
Yep. But thank you for that. And
And our
you saw our volunteer that he's requesting we form a volunteer group. So get your, yep.
But I can't crawl inside there and do the hammering like
Yeah.
that. No way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Don Hammer. Am I saying that correctly? Ham?
Good evening. I'm going to have a hard time reading my own writing, so excuse me. One of the things we've really appreciated about Upper Gwynedd in the 54 years we've lived here is the family atmosphere. When you go into and just about any place in the town, there's a warmth and a friendliness that you just don't come up with in most other areas. And I'm a little concerned about any major changes to the pool. My kids both learned to swim there. My son went on to be on the state championship swim team. My wife and I got a horse like this, cheering and timing for years. And it's just a warm, friendly place. And it's run by volunteers. And you can't find that in most communities. They've got paid people. And the paid people do not have the same atmosphere, same attitude. They don't have the same caring. And I hate to see that evaporated because we become commercialized. I have been active in Delaware County, in Chester County, in multiple pools during the time we moved around this area as a swimmer, as a lifeguard, as an instructor. And they don't have the same atmosphere. They don't have the same facilities. I doubt that you'll find any other creature going across the pool. The kids and adults are challenged to climb one. And if you haven't done it yet, you should try it. I did. Made it the second time. It's just, like I say, the entire atmosphere is just entirely different. And I'm concerned about changing it by bringing in somebody from Marple Newtown that's skilled and talented in running a swimming pool. I'm sure he is, or she is, or whatever. But it's not the same atmosphere. It's not the same quality. And the warm memories that we have, I even brought my grandkids here to learn how to swim. because the whole family agreed, yeah, that's where you go to swim. Our daughter lives in Taliesin. They don't go to the Taliesin pool. My son lives in Bucks County. They don't go to the Bucks County pool. They come here. It's an atmosphere that you cannot duplicate. And I don't think it should be risked. So please think seriously about it. Yes, it might be nice to help them, but I think the town, first of all, most of the town doesn't use it. It's only crowded July and the first part of August. The rest of the time, you don't have any trouble finding a parking place. But we're talking about 6 to 7 weeks of the year. You go spend large amounts of money for something that most of the township doesn't use and that isn't used most of the year. It's probably not a really good use of time and money because there's so many things we can do.
Don, we are extremely fortunate to have Ginny Alt, a volunteer in this community who I've known for 20 years, run that pool, and she is absolutely amazing. When Greg and Rebecca came on the board, they were just blown away that it was just volunteers doing that. And Ginny is, you're right, she just does amazing things. There was a situation too where we don't have keys to get into that pool. The township has nothing to really, it's on our land.
Right.
And we don't have access to that pool. And do we want to change it? I don't think we really want to change anything with that pool, but I think what we want to do is make sure it's safe and it can handle, and because it's getting older too. But we don't want to change, like make it, Dorney Park or some big water park. We know what people like. We see it. I mean, you said yourself, it's just been forever. The pool's just getting older, so we have to look at that.
They've updated it. They've made it safer. They meet all the ADA requirements. I can show you community pools that I worked in that aren't that safe. I wouldn't have my kids swimming in.
Maybe we can meet with Ginny one time and she can show you some of the things. Yeah.
I mean, I
think Ginny, who runs the pool, is in agreement that there's certain structural improvements that are absolutely imperative in order for my kids and your grandchildren and folks from the community and elsewhere to come in and continue to enjoy the pool. In a very short period of time, it won't be structurally sound, and just band-aiding the improvements versus making significant fixes is just treating the symptoms and not the cause. So she's in agreement that we need to make significant improvements if we're going to keep this asset in our community. And I'm glad that you mentioned that folks from other communities come and enjoy our resources here, which is one of the reasons we solicited their advice on the survey to the community, because it was very important for them to have a voice here too, because as you mentioned,
most of the voters in this township weren't asked and haven't had it discussed with them. And I think they deserve it. They helped create this, and they shouldn't see it disappear and come out here some July day and say, what happened?
I don't think anybody's suggesting that's the plan.
But that's
At this
what'll
point,
happen.
nothing's happening. We're just talking
You
about
make
the
dramatic
possibility
changes
of
and
getting
don't
it
talk to
fixed.
them. And this town, as it's gotten bigger, has become less communicative.
I agree with you. The public needs to.
It's ghastly.
And we'll
I've been-
continue to have public meetings and public comments, which the public was invited to for the comprehensive park and rec plan. And if we do go down the road of having a master plan for the pool, the public would absolutely be invited to comment and participate in that, just like they were, repeatedly asked if they would like to participate in the Parks and Rec open space draft plan.
Well, I would suggest that if you're going to do that, and I appreciate anything, because, all right, if structural changes have to be made, they're going to be expensive. And, we should get involved if the township agrees. And I don't think it should be done by email or something in the newspaper. I think you should ask the parents that are active in the pool to start walking through the community, asking the people that live here what their feelings are, and bombard them. I've been involved in politics in this town for 54 years. A lot of people sit on their hands. You've all gone out and campaigned and you know it. People say to you, yeah, I'll be at the polls, I'll vote for you. And they never show up. My wife and I got so angry that we volunteered at the polls. And people will lie to us the day before that live a block away. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, thank you very much. They don't show up. I run the voting machine. I know who gets there.
Well, I hope they participate when they're offered the opportunity to. So
Yeah, but
I do appreciate your involvement too and your willingness to be a part of that.
what I'm saying is, unless we get them out to get them involved in voting, you're going to have some very unhappy people say, I'm paying $87 a year for that. I don't use it. You don't need it. I don't need it. The kids don't need to have any negative influence on them. I remember when they put the 8 ball fields in on Hancock Street, the neighbors over there were livid. Nobody ever told them there were going to be lights on at night. And there were meetings and there were hollers and that sort of thing. Beat them over the head. I agree that they're dunces. They don't move. I'll go for that. But you don't want to have the repercussions afterwards.
Thank you, Mr.
That's my concern.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Next up, Mark Connolly.
Hi, Mark Connolly, Lebanon Carney Drive. So I guess the first thing I wanted to mention is that although I did not grow up in Upper Gwynedd Township, so and as you can probably tell from my physique, I was not that big into sports. But but as someone who was in band, I spent quite a lot of time on football fields. So I appreciate that, especially obviously. Norgwin is baseball, but I appreciate that you guys are trying to potentially start the steps of formalizing the relationship a little bit more because, when some of the discussions about the power line trail came up, I think, if I recall correctly, Upper Gwynedd Township was the last one to be able to get access to the right-of-way for potentially using trails, and that in the future, other townships might not be able to avail themselves of that opportunity. So it's one of those things where we really don't know, in the future, in 10, 20 years, what is PICO going to decide? So I definitely think it's a good thing for us to try to make sure we formalize things a little bit more. I do also want to mention that I do see here that, while I was sitting, I went on the township's website and I looked at the editor that I assume is mailed out to everybody in the township. And I see that I guess there was a QR code for the survey this year. So anybody who in the township would have received something in the mail prompting them to potentially participate in the survey. So I hope that everybody who wanted to participate in the survey was able to. The one other thing I wanted to mention as well, so because I'm always thrilled when I see grant requests on here, so I'm just happy that the township is reaching out and trying to get more grants. And I see, it looks to me like with this park grant that it's potentially a no match required. So it would be great if our township can get $200,000 or something and not have to put up a match. Whereas I know a lot of grants, you have to do 50% match or greater. So it'll definitely be great. The township can take advantage of that. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And last up, Sam Wampole.
Thank you for thank you for letting me speak. Previous surveys have indicated that satellite parks, also classified as pocket playgrounds, have been done, and neighbors around those parks have expressed the consensus that they do not want to see expansion, but upgrading would be acceptable. And so I'm here to kind of remind you folks that replacing equipment is one thing, but to expand and make it larger is not something that neighbors want to see. I live on Allentown Road and kind of adjacent to the White's Road Park, and the trail goes almost behind my property, and so I see people utilizing those facilities. There was previous mention about discussion with the North Penn School District, and the listing of priorities with the North Penn School District and the township indicate that there's not a lot of priority in that kind of discussion for the use of facilities which stand vacant through the summer. Discussion about baseball and other activities that are summertime activities. We would be well advised to see what we can do with the North Penn School District to utilize some of their facilities instead of trying to acquire new facilities for our township. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm taking some notes. Wait a minute. You got more than that. I haven't timed anyone, but you can come on. I said you got more than that. I haven't timed anyone, but you can come on up. You can stop with that lie.
I think the one thing I would caution this board is that you don't want to have township-owned operated pools. I think we've seen what's happened in Lansdale, Hatfield, where the pool fees are excessive. We are very fortunate to have the Ginnies and Norwood Commission that is outside of the township running and volunteering and working their butts off. So I would just caution this township to look very carefully before they look at maybe actually owning a pool, because you can see what's happened in neighboring. I read in the paper all the time. I do get the reporter and I do read these excessive costs that these townships are having, because now we currently rely on fee-based funding. And now I would hate to see us just have to pay all this extra money.
Thank you, Fred, but just for
Thank you.
clarification, no one's talking about the township. per
And
se.
I wasn't suggesting, I'm just a word of
I just
caution.
wanted to alleviate your
A word of
concerns
caution. I
ahead of
wasn't
time.
accusing anyone of anything. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends our public comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Pat Pino. Oh.
Hi, Pat Pino, and I do live in Upper Gwynedd Township. I just have some comments. It's pretty much based on, I'm concerned about my taxes going through the roof. Even though you may get a grant from the government, it's still indirectly, we all get taxed for it one way or another. But these are what my comments are based on, mostly that.
Is this for the pool and park too, when you're referring to?
Yeah. I'm just concerned on the mentality that we're saying, some people think, we should have what another township has, including all of the assets. The Upper Gwynedd Township might actually reflect efficiencies in other municipalities, including a financial fund balance held by Upper Gwynedd Township that is not held by other municipalities. As over the years, Upper Gwynedd Township has not foolishly spent funds on unnecessary property acquisitions. The township open space inventory was accumulated through creative negotiation with landowners, developers, and nonprofit land preservation organizations the township fund balance that can be used on far more important future township needs. These needs include future infrastructures needs and the maintenance of the Upper Gwynedd Township comparative long-standing low municipality real estate municipal tax rate. That's it.
Thank you. That ends our public comments. Next up, number 10. Motion to approve. I'd like a motion to approve consent items A through G.
Motion.
I have a second.
Second?
A motion and a second. Have any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. This would be a roll call.
I know.
Oh.
I didn't get through yet. Deanna, can you please do the roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Motion passes unanimously. Number 11, I'd like to make a motion to approve the EAC Single-Use Plastic Waste Reduction Program. Do we have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Any public comments? Come on up.
Question I have is, there's no doubt in my mind the board's unanimously going to approve this motion, but is there any motion that comes before this board that comes from one of your subcommittees that you don't approve? That's almost a rhetorical question, because I was in the environmental board meeting last week or week before. In that group, they're all of one mind. So the other, I guess, follow-up question is, does this board ever appoint people with diverse opinions to these subcommittees? Because I don't see it. And this is how we get basically governing from one direction, right now the left, because you don't have any diversity in your thought. And we're going to have your will imposed on the rest of the community that doesn't see it your way. And I know, for an example, Glenn Hatfield wanted to be on that environmental committee. He was certainly qualified, I think probably more than some of the ones that are there. I mean, I don't know all their qualifications, but he certainly was qualified and he was denied. So I want to make that point and present that as something to think about for this board.
Thank you.
Madam President, just point of personal order for clarification for the public. This single-use plastic waste reduction program, as we mentioned, it's strictly voluntary for the organizations in our community that want to participate. There's no
Correct.
mandate from the township that forces them in any way to participate in this. Should they opt in, then they'd essentially be receiving a certificate saying that, yes, I
Correct.
agreed to eliminate single-use straws.
Thank you, Commissioner Mull. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Number 12, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolutions 27-2024 state aid for the pension plans. Can I have a second? You have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Number 13, I'd like to make a motion to approve the I'm sorry. I'm authorize the advertisement of the bid for the Township Administration Building Roof Replacement Project.
Motion, President Carter? It's a motion to authorize advertising.
No. I'll say that. It's worded a little strangely on the agenda, but we're just authorizing advertising right now. Yes. All right, so a motion to approve the authorization for the advertisement of the bid for the Township Administration Building Roof Replacement Project. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Lauren. Number 14, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Brian Shapiro as the Upper Gwynedd Township Delegate to the Montgomery County Tax Collection Committee. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Brian. I'd like to make a motion to approve payment number 8, which is the final payment to Shipsy Electric for the building renovations project in the amount of $6,631.84. Do we have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Deanna, can you please do a roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney. Aye. Commissioner Mull.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Number 16 is just to remind everyone in the public that we have 2 budget work session dates, October 22nd at 4 p.m. and October 29th at 4 p.m. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Commissioner Moody for zoning, planning, and code enforcement.
Thank you, President Carter. Number 17, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement for encroachment onto stormwater sewer easement for a fence installation at 1132 Scobie Drive.
We have a motion. Can I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Motion passes unanimously. Now I'd like to turn the meeting. Wasn't vote. Doesn't say vote. Right. That's the board. All in favor, say aye. I'm sorry, number 17, and I do apologize. So a little backed up tonight. We had the public comments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Turn it over to Commissioner Hall, Public Safety.
Thank you, President Carter. Just for a little bit of background on agenda item number 18, on August 24th, engine 80's check valve on the rear brakes failed. We cannot have a fire engine that doesn't have brakes. Therefore, that repair was $18,000. And just to give you some additional background as to where that money is coming from, in 2024, our Fire Fund 03 was projected at budget time, so last year budget time, to have a reserve of $547,000, $547,822. So that additional $18,000 that we need outside of the budget will be coming from that fire fund if we approve it this evening. So I'd like to make a motion to approve additional funding for the Upper Gwynedd Fire Department in the amount of $18,000.
We have a motion. Can I have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Joey? Nothing? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And I just have a couple more things.
Go ahead.
First off, I would like to thank very much our Assistant Chief Gordon for joining us on behalf of the Upper Gwynedd Fire Department, in case we did have any questions. Great opportunity to thank him for his service, which is completely volunteer before you leave. And then I have 2 police items to share. I know that it is Halloween time, but guess what? The police have started their Toys for Tots campaign, because we know all the eager beavers are out there already starting their holiday shopping. So if you are shopping and you have that toy, that unwrapped toy or several unwrapped toys, feel free to drop them off in the lobby of the police station. And then the second item of importance is a new program that the police has started called the Yellow Dot program. And they advertised it on social media this week, if you might have seen it. If you yourself have any special needs that you would need to be communicated to first responders in the case of an emergency while you were driving, if you place this Yellow Dot decal in your vehicle's rear window, the first responders will know then to check your glove compartment for instructions that they would need to know to help you. So the program involves stopping by the police department, getting the pamphlet, getting the dot, putting it on your back rear view, your back window. And then also, if you do have a special need that would need to be attended to in the case of an emergency, if you were in some sort of car accident, putting that information in the glove box. And then the police and all the first responders will start to know to see the yellow dot and then to retrieve that. So it's a great new program that's just being started. And I think it's something that we definitely want to spread the word about. And that's it. Thank you, Commissioner Carter.
I have a question about that. I don't know, Denise, if this is a question for you or maybe for the chief.
Luckily, we have the chief of police right here who could probably answer it better than me.
Is that Yellow Dot program now like a statewide thing or?
So we started the Blue Dot program, Blue Envelope program in Montgomery County. Gentleman named Ben Hartranft, who's an autism advocate, the mayor of North Penn also, helped us get that going in the police departments a couple of years ago. The Yellow Dot program is from PennDOT. It's very similar. It's has a little bit more information that you can put in for something outside of autism, other special needs, and it comes with a sticker. So we have both available at the police station. And it is statewide. And since we already kind of had something in place here in Upper Gwynedd in the police department, it's an easy thing for us to make a second offer on for services.
Is it for medical also?
Yes. Yep.
It's for anything that a first responder really would need to know.
Yeah.
Would help them.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry. Thank you, President Carter.
Next, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Mall.
Thank you, President Carter. You can see agenda item number 19, Carnival Acknowledgements. The Upper Gwynedd Township would like to thank the following people for their help in making our carnival a success. Skelly's Amusements, Starflight Drones and Fireworks, Clemens Food Group, Cargo Trailer Services, Republic Services, Lehigh Valley Dairy Farms, Stephanie at George Allen Wastewater Management, Dot at West Point Deli, Rental World, Rock Hill Design, Upper Gwynedd Fire Department and Upper Gwynedd Fire Police, Upper Gwynedd Park and Recreation Advisory Board, Upper Gwynedd Parks and Rec and Upper Gwynedd Public Works Departments, Upper Gwynedd Police Department, the Upper Gwynedd Board of Commissioners, VMSC of Lansdale, Township Administration Staff, Norgwin Baseball and Softball, the Sausage Crew, including John, Justin, and Jane Murray, and all the volunteers, all ticket booth and wristband volunteers, Merck and Company, Annie International, Code Inspections, Inc., Remington and Vernick Engineers, Eckerd Siemens, Sharon and Malad LLC, Gilmore and Associates, and thank you to all of our 2024 silver and bronze sponsors. If we fail to acknowledge anyone or we've omitted anybody on the list, individual or organization, we sincerely apologize and appreciate your efforts in helping to make this carnival a great success. So moving to item 20 on the agenda, by way of background, this item would provide for a new cab trailer with a mowmaster arm in order to mow the fields and maintain the overgrown sides of the roads. We hope to purchase the equipment in 2026 using 100% grant funding, but the grant application actually needs this authorizing resolution at attached to it. So I'm making a motion to approve Resolution 28, 2004 LSA grant application.
Thank you. We have a motion. Can I have a second?
Make a second?
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam President. The next item on the agenda, item 21, as we discussed before, the construction of a new pole barn. This would be for storage for Parks and Rec for materials and equipment. This has been in the budget for quite a while and prices have increased. So we are making a motion to authorize the advertisement of a bid for the Parks and Recreation pole barn project.
We have a motion. Can I have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Any public comments?
Actually, I think we talked about this last week, but just to confirm, this is going to go behind us, behind the Public Works current.
Along the same
Building.
line as the other pole barns, but it'll be separate for Parks and Rec.
Got it. Thank you.
Am I correct, Megan?
Yes, you are correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And finally, Madam President, we are going to table agenda item number 22 as PICO is still in the review process of the easements for this particular project, so we can't move forward at this time. We hope PICO will complete their very robust and multi-layered review process in short order so we can move forward with this project. So we'll be tabling agenda item 22.
Thank you. Next up, wastewater treatment, number 23. I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase and installation of brush assemblies for clarifier number 3 from Ford and Hall Company Incorporated in the amount of $29,840. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Any public comments? Deanna, can you please do a roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Number 24, I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of LED light fixtures from Colonial Electric in an amount of $38,325.34. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Any public comments? Deanna, can you please do a roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Under other business, number 25, the finance report. The finance report is included in the packet. Our new finance director will be including this in the packet monthly for the public's review, and he will be doing a quarterly presentation. But right now, the finance report will be included in the packet from now on to review monthly. Number 26. I'd like to make a motion to approve the October 2024 open invoices. Do we have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Deanna, can you please do a roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Number 27, I'd like to make a motion to approve the October 2024 paid invoices. Can I have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Deanna, roll call.
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney,
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. And with that being said, this meeting is adjourned.